It's time for more coaching and coffee talk. Today, our guest is Rudi Sorgenfri. He is a totem body therapist. He works a lot with his, which we'll talk about with his body therapy, with stress and emotional things that are stored in the body. And I'm super excited to talk to him today. Rudi, thanks for being here.
It's a privilege.
And we were just talking that we first met back in the Butcher's Masters group back in Butcher's Garage, right?
Yeah.
And it must have been 2013 or something, or
yeah, it's been quite a while.
quite a while. And you were my first partner in a CrossFit competition. What do you remember what the name of that competition was? It was like in the stadium over there.
It was in Parken.
Yeah, it was in Parken,
stadium.
a huge football stadium. So we felt very important, and we survived. That was the most important. That's all we'll focus on.
I think we were the eldest people competing in that competition. So.
Oh yeah, that's also good to focus on. We were the oldest, and we survived, and we didn't get injured. That's a victory.
That's all. Yeah, exactly.
And you weren't. I don't think you weren't doing body therapy at that time, right? You kind of transitioned into that.
Yeah, at that time I was working as a business consultant, and then I had a major stress breakdown a couple of years earlier. Then I switched, into this body therapy in 2014.
And was it? Did you see a body therapist yourself when you went down with stress? Was that it, or are you just exploring different things?
I had my own experience, and once I was laying there on the massage table, then I have to learn to do this kind of treatments, because I have been through a lot of traditional massage and physiotherapy and so on, because of my sports background. But here I found a modality that basically solved a lot of the issues I had in my body at that time. So and that really got me interested.
Yeah, I just wanted to describe for people what happened when I came to see you for treatment, because I had heard, I'd never known about this kind of body treatment where you also kind of talk about emotional things until I came to Denmark. And then I heard about body SDS, was is another kind of system that similar, right? Not exactly the same, but and then you were doing this, and I was under a lot of stress myself, and I had this it was the oh my God, I can't remember that muscle now. What's that hip muscle? The deep muscle.
The psoas and your
psoas. Yeah. Because it's called like the muscle of the soul, actually, psoas muscle. Yeah, it was my psoas muscle, and everything. Well, a number of muscles were locked up around it, too. And you went in there, and you were getting pretty deep in there to try to release it, and then these thoughts of my mother came into my head, and I just started talking, and then I just completely took me by surprise that I just started weeping, as you were working on this muscle, and it was such a huge emotional release. And actually now I'm just kind of circling back again and thinking about these kind of things with my mom, the dynamics with my mom, and the kind of unmet needs / stress, and how that manifested later in life, and in that it, I believe, contributed to my heart attack. But it's quite intense. It's quite intense, the things you can experience in that.
Yeah, because the body is basically a book. It transcribes every single experience that you have during your whole lifetime, from your laying in your mother's uterus and during your birth and as you grow up.
Yeah.
So the body is, when you know how to read the body, then you can pinpoint exactly, okay, what is this person's resources, and what is also their weak points, or whether they struggle the most in life.
Mm. And you can read all that just by seeing where someone is tense in their
Yeah,
body?
see where the body is tense, and also where the body is somehow collapsed, because our muscles can either tighten up, or they can lose their tonus.
Oh, their tone. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So it's basically the difference between the hypotonus and hypertonus in the body that gives a picture about this person's life, and not only this person's life, but also the ancestors' lives as well, because some of this is given to you purely genetic and
Yeah.
epigenetics. So
Yeah, it's quite interesting, the rise of epigenetics, where it's like some of the things that you would seemed a little bit, new, a little too new agey 5 years ago. You think people look at you like this and think, no, now there's actually science to back this stuff up. That these kind of traumas or unresolved traumas and stresses or whatever can be handed down generationally, right?
yeah, and it makes perfectly sense, because our gene pool is actually are given to us to so that we can survive in the circumstances we are in. So if the
Oh
mother is
yeah.
during a lot of stress, then the nervous system automatically translates this into, okay, this is a hostile environment, and therefore I need to be ready to just to survive in this environment. So
Wow, I
if
never thought of that before. Yeah.
if the mother or the father have been through some big traumas in their lives, then of course the gene pool is activated in that way, because from my perspective, the body and the nervous system is doing everything it can just to make you survive, no
Yeah,
matter what.
it's just a protective mechanism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow,
So
that's
if
interesting.
so if so if the nervous system evolved around a hostile environment, and not just because of war and anything, but it could be that the mother is under a lot of stress because she is unsure about her new life with this little baby. Then the stress transform into the baby and the nervous
Wow.
system of the baby as well. So
Yeah.
uh, and yeah, for a lot of years it was somehow just seen as hocus pocus, or voodoo or something like that. But now a lot of science actually backs this up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm a big convert to that way of thinking, certainly. The more and more I read. So let me take myself as an example, because if like with my mom, she suffered a lot of trauma when she was younger. Her dad was a alcoholic suicide, actually, and her mom died in a motel fire when she was young, also like 13 years old or something like that. So she was sent to live on a farm with her aunt and uncle, and there wasn't a lot of um, I would say affection showed, you know what I mean? And that got translated into my childhood, I noticed. Um, but she was, I can see now, of course, I can see she was doing the best she could, but also she was under a lot of stress. And I think when even think about it in her mind now, she's died now, but I think of her, making this kind of face, and
mm,
she was very much at a distance from me as a kid. I remember I would like see her. And so what how would you think that would translate into my body? I mean, is like the psoas, is that a logical place, or what other kind of things would you see from that? Or does it depend person to person?
the psoas muscle, for instance, is a muscle that is connected to what do we call it in English? Attachment.
Okay.
So if we suffer from loss of attachment,
Yeah.
then this muscle will either collapse or tense up. It depends upon when we sense this kind of disattachment during our lifetime.
Yeah.
And basically the whole body, so try to imagine that you have to feel something, or you have to express something, but you don't have a body to do it through. You can't, because our emotions and feelings it's not a mind thing. It's actually a movement through the body, and a movement through different substances as adrenaline and noradrenaline, cortisol and oxytocin, and a lot of other stuffs just around in our bloodstream. And so how we use our body and how these chemical substances either arises or lowers in the body, then the brain takes a decision. Okay, what is this emotion that I'm feeling right now? Is it anger? Is it sorrow? Is it fear? Or is it love and joy, or whatever? And that also, that we show with the body, and we show it with our facial expressions. So when your mother all the time cringe together and have a tight jaw, then your nervous system and your interpret that how in your connection to your mother. So when you're somehow in a subconscious level see your mother like that, okay, then your nervous system automatically think, okay, this is frightening, so I keep a distance to her. Or I can see that my mother is suffering a lot, so I don't need to burden her with my emotions or with what's going on inside of me. And that's basically what we do to other people. We send something out, interpret it, and act upon it. So, and depending about who we are as a person and where our strengths and where our resources are, then we act according to those resources and strengths that we have. And that manifests into the body. And that's basically what I do when I meet somebody. They come to me because they have been in a lot of stress or burned out or are not attached to their emotions. Then we can work with the body. We can work with the movement through the body to normalize the levels of stress in the body. Because when we are stressed, we don't sense that much. Because when we are in a mode where we are basically trying to survive, then we don't need to sense anything.
Yeah, you're like in fight or flight, right? So
exactly.
I mean, your body is in war mode basically. So you're feeling less pain and even actually, I discovered in my research about my heart attack, because of that mode, actually your blood clots faster because you're in fight or flight mode in case you happen to be cut or something in a fight. I mean, it's crazy.
And if we have been through a lot of stress or have been in a lot of traumas during our lifetime, then our nervous systems react to those circumstances. So if we consider us to be in a hostile environment, then we will have a lot of stress in our systems. And not being attached to our primary caretakers, that put us basically in a lot of stress, because okay, I can't take for granted that my mother shows me affection or takes good care of me, both physically and emotionally. Then our nervous systems react on them, and then it basically becomes a baseline in our system. So that we live by. So
I was just thinking, when I had my heart attack, almost everyone reacted with, "I can't believe it. You're one of the healthiest people I know." And I'm thinking, Rudi probably wasn't surprised I had a heart attack. That kind of makes sense, right?
somehow, yes.
Yeah.
But again, I think if you haven't been in that perfect condition that you're in, also because you were so fit, then it actually helped you to survive this
Help me
stroke.
survive. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
um,
But yeah, because that was, it's funny about, and I keep saying this, but it's so amazing to me with the field of cardiology. Um, it's so much guesswork. They really, all you want when you have a heart attack, all you want to know is why, and nobody can ever tell you why. I've talked about it with a number of heart attack survivors, and they throw this out and they throw that out. Well, it was genetic, or oh, it was this or that. Most of them don't even talk about stress actually at all. But I had felt like that it was about stress for me, but I really was focusing on the stress that I experienced in the last 10 years, moving countries and having small kids, and things going on with my wife and things like that. But when you're talking right now, I realize, cortisol, the stress hormone that you're talking about, I had that probably right out of the as soon as I was born, and I'm experiencing my mother like that. Then I have elevated cortisol and other stress hormones levels right away as a child, and then that pattern was probably repeated uh, in other relationships that I had as an adult, right? So I was probably just running on cortisol, way too much cortisol my whole life.
yeah, but we can always look back and okay, it was because of this and because of that.
Yeah,
But but then again, the body is doing everything it can to help us survive.
yeah,
So, and at some point, there's just no more resources in the body, so it
mm,
shuts down. And for some people, it's adrenal fatigue or burnout, and for some others, it's a stroke or
yeah,
brain bleeding or anything like that. So we never know what hit us and why
yeah,
it hit us,
yeah,
and yeah, that's some of the stuff that's really interesting in my line of work, because I know my own story and my client's story as well. And basically, if we have not been taught how to self-regulate us
mm,
and regulate our nervous system, then it's actually a skill that we can learn later in life.
yeah,
And I've been following you, yeah, since 2013, and after your heart attack, and I see that you're actually doing a lot of good stuff for yourself.
yeah,
You're taking this ice cold bath
yeah,
in the harbor, and
yeah,
the breathing exercises, and
yeah,
because our ability to handle stress is something that we can train.
yeah,
We can
yeah,
train it during breathing techniques. We can train it during how we use our body. As fit people actually handle stress, both physical stress and emotional stress, much better than unfit people do.
mm, yeah.
Uh,
But I was
so we
thinking,
can,
yeah.
yeah.
No, I was thinking because when you were talking about some of these protective mechanisms, that we have, like when you said the body just gets worn out, but also this like protective mechanism of going into a fight or flight mode, um, that that's something we're supposed to be in very short periods, and then we're supposed to get back out of it again. So if we live in there, then yeah, some of these protective mechanisms start eroding other systems in the body. Like specifically, I discovered that cortisol actually erodes the lining of the arteries.
Mm.
And gives plaque a chance to build up in the arteries. I feel deeply that's what happened to me. But you're right. Now we have a chance to, like you said, self-regulate
Mm.
and train how to deal with stress now. And What does that look like to you? If someone is looking to do that, they walk into your door.
So basically, they have to find out, okay, what kind of stresses that I'm under at this point. Is it physical stress, emotional stress, or is that a chemical stress? Because if we are eating poorly, not getting our vegetables and eating candy instead of that, then our body reacts with a stress. Just like it would do it if we in some kind of physical
Anything
stress
else,
or
it's
in
like a
emotional
nutritional stress. Yeah, your body
Yeah,
doesn't care
perfect.
what it is, right?
Yeah. It just because cortisol is also, it's a part of our immune system as well. Because if the body is over inflamed, then cortisol reacts by lowering this inflammation in the body. But it also shuts down our primary immune system, so it don't repair itself, but actually taking care of this inflammation in the body.
Right. That's why like people get a cortisol shot if they have their knee is all swollen and the doctor basically doesn't know what to do about it.
Exactly.
They give you a cortisol shot and it goes away. Okay, good luck. Yeah.
So cortisol does a lot of good stuff in our body, and if we didn't have cortisol in the body, then we wouldn't wake up in the morning. So it also gives us energy and make sure that the body, the brain is constantly have the access to sugar. But if we are expressed to cortisol in way too much, then yes, of course, the body starts to break down. Because it can't rebuild itself in that state.
Yeah. And when people walk in and you say, people have to think about what kind of stress are they under. Do you find, is that easy for people, or are people just like, I have no idea, or you have to kind of draw it out of them?
Most people don't know they are stressed.
Yeah.
Basically. So a lot of them are actually really surprised when I say, okay, your body is under a lot of stress. So the best thing you can do to help yourself is either starting eating more healthy, getting your sleeps, getting enough water, move your body, and then handle the emotional stress. But nobody can handle that much information. So we have to find, okay, what single thing can you do that will help you the most under your circumstances right now?
So you pretty much give people one project to focus on and start.
Yeah.
Start with that.
And my main focus when I work with people is basically the emotional stuff. And if it's in the physical or it's nutrition way, then I send them in directions to people that are better than me in those areas. Because I don't think that I can help people with everything going on in their life, but I can help them to understand the mechanism in the body and understand the language of the body, what the body is actually trying to tell them. So they can take the proper precautions to live a long and healthy life with joy.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, when you said most people don't know they're under stress, are we all in a state of stress at this point with coronavirus lockdowns, or even with modern life? I don't know.
I think the modern life where we don't, back in the days when we lived in the caves and so on, then we went to sleep when it was dark and we wake up with the sunlight. But nowadays people are basically awake all day, 24/7. They are never off the grid. So, and me, for instance, I'm the first thing I do in the morning, I know it's really bad for me, it's check my phone. See if I got any emails, see if I get any messages on Facebook and stuff like that. But we are wired in some kind of ways that we are all under some kind of stress and trying to figure out, okay, how can I self-regulate myself?
And I wanted to talk about too, because you do this practice. Your wife Sif also is the same kind of body practitioner, right?
Yeah.
And you are in the unfortunate scenario, as many of us were in lockdown periods, where you actually can't see clients during this whole time, and you've got two small kids, I know, and one. I can't believe how tall he is, by the way. One very tall kid, and so, I mean, the stress is mounting for you guys, I imagine, during that
Mm.
time. Do you do treatments on each other, or what do you do to take care of yourselves in those? What did you take care of yourself during those lockdown periods?
We actually didn't do that much body practice,
Mm,
positioning at home, and I actually wonder why, because we had the tool right at our hands,
yeah.
uh, but I think when we were shut down, then we went into some kind of state of s- pure survival.
Mm,
So we
yeah.
went in some kind of a stress situation and tried to handle our life at that point.
Mm,
Seeing, okay, what can I do to make sure that I still have a business when everything opened up again?
yeah.
What can I do to take care of my family and provide food and home for them as well?
Yeah.
So we can, everybody can say something, say, oh, I'm so enlightened and I actually know what to do when shit hits the fence. But when we're standing in it, then we're
It's
just
tough.
people like, yeah, and try
Yeah.
to and fall back into our old patterns and our old survival
Yeah.
instincts and so on. Uh,
It's so
so
true because
that's
I've been under stress the last couple of days because I had this, I finished, I took some time off of my degree, right, after the heart attack. And then I'm just back trying to finish up this Bachelor of Science in Global Nutrition and Health, which I probably was doing way back when we were training together. I'm finally finishing it up. And I had to hand in the final version of the thesis to my supervisor today, right?
Mhm.
So, like you mentioned, I'm doing all these things to try to regulate my stress and manage my stress. So, I actually did get up and get in the water this morning. So, that was good. But I skipped my breathing. I skipped my little micro workout that I do. I thought, no, I gotta get right at this. I gotta get. And then actually, I was training Yordis, a client of mine, by the way, and a client of yours. She says hello, by the way. and and I thought, okay, I'm about to do this podcast with Rudi. I have to just do my little micro workout, which I did. And then I came in and did my breathing exercises right before we started. Because you're right, it's like, even if we're working in this field where we're trying to give this to others, when it really hits you, you just went, okay, yeah, but not right now. Let me just focus on something else, when really this is the time that you really need to take a step back and take care of yourself, right?
Yeah, but then again, if we have some strong habits,
Yeah,
then it's no problem, because then okay, right now it's not the time to do the breathing or doing the exercises, but as soon as I see it fit into my schedule, then I'll do it.
yeah, yeah,
And if I skip one day, it really doesn't matter for that single day, because then I can continue tomorrow. But if I skip tomorrow and day after and day after and day after, then I start creating a new habit. But
yeah,
but sometimes life just hits us. So
yeah,
we can make all these shiny plans and have the best intentions in the world, but sometimes things got too overwhelming for us. And that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
If we, after that acute stress, we can step back and then go back to our normal day life. And and that's
yeah,
what I have been during this lockdown. I've taken my life off to some kind of revision and looking into it. I was here, what should be my main priorities?
mhm,
Okay, my family is main priority. And then after that, that's my doing something good for myself, taking care of myself, eating properly, move around. But I've seen when the first lockdown last year, then we started to do some exercises back here at the home, and bought some kettlebells and dumbbells to just to move around. But here the second time, because the second time the lockdown hit much harder than the first time, then then I recognized, okay, I fell into some of my old habits, and lost my positive mindset, and started to grumbling a lot instead. And it took a while to see, okay, what is actually going on here? And then I could step back and see, okay, and also this state I was in, right? But it takes consciousness to do it. So we have to bring some consciousness into our life, and it's when we bring the consciousness into our life, we actually can sense what is going on inside of us, what is going on between me and the people around me. What kind of connection do I have to myself? What kind of connection do I have to the people around me? And are those connections aligned to each other?
It's interesting what you say about that second lockdown, because I also had that experience too. And I noticed it with my kids too. It was kind of like when you had the first lockdown and it opened up again, and then you just want to see that things are moving in a positive direction. And it felt very defeating for it to be locked down again. And then you're wondering, well, is this going to be it now? Open, close all the time. And my kids had a real hard time adjusting, like in school, out of school, in school, out of school. And now they just don't want to go to school at all. They really found it hard getting back to school. But yeah, it also is tough when everyone's a lot of people's ways of taking care of themselves, we're also closed off. Like you're closed for business. Other bodywork people, even, you know, um, did you have any clients where you just talked to them over the phone, or any online stuff at that time, or was it just a shutdown for you?
It was basically a total shutdown for me. I did something online, gave people some exercises that they could do to self-regulate, breathing techniques, movement techniques, and how they could actually, if they were feeling some kind of anxiety, and so, okay, how can you handle this in an easy manner? Because our normal life was basically turned upside down. So we have to find a way, okay, how do I survive in this new environment? So it has I think it's been stressful for everybody. And if somebody says, no, not for me, I think they are lying to themselves.
Yeah. And about the online, because I wanted to talk to you about the course you did on the vagus nerve. Was that online or was that in person before the lockdown
That
happened, or
was in
both?
person, where
That was in person. You gave a
did
lecture
some
on it.
I did some workshops
Oh,
about, okay,
workshops. That's right.
how can you work with your body at home, to release tension and stress from the body physically, and how can you use your breathing to tone your autonomic nervous system in the right manner. And that's basically, I see a lot of people, when they are stressed, they get disattached to their breathing. And the best way that we can actually alter this stress situation in our body is to connect to our breathing. Because when we start to breathe in a specific manner, then we can either turn up the stress, like from the Wim Hof that you are doing, or you can breathe in a different pattern, and then you can turn down for the stress itself. And it's because the autonomic nervous system, it consists of two parts. It's sympathetic part of it and the parasympathetic part of it. And in the parasympathetic part of it, it's basically the vagus nerve that's the main nerve in that system.
Yeah. And can you describe the vagus nerve in case people don't know about it?
Yeah, the vagus nerve is a cranial nerve. It sits in the brainstem, and then it connects through different branches in your abdomen. It has a branch that is called the Ventral Branch, and then it also have a branch that calls the Dorsal Branch. And those two have some different functions in the body. The ventral part of the vagus nerve is basically connected to all of our organs, to the heart, to the lungs, the stomach, and intestines, and though the connection through the vagus nerves to our organs is also put together in some branches. We have a branch that goes to our vocal cord and to our ears, and that's actually when we get stress, then we get this hoarse sound around us. And also when we are stressed, then we are more sensitive to high noises or really low noises, because we have to be aware in under those circumstances.
All right.
So that's the upper branch of the vagus nerve, and then we have a branch that stimulates the rhythm between your breathing and your heart rate. And that's the factor that we know as heart rate variability, because our heart rate is not stable. Understood that, okay, I'm in a fit condition, so my heart rate is around 55 beats per minute. But the heart rate actually turns up when we breathe in, and it shuts down when we take some breaks in our breathing and when we hold our breath. And using those breathing patterns, so when we inhale, take a small break, then exhale and take a small break, then we actually help through the vagus nerve, the autonomic nervous system, to switch from a stressful situation until a rest situation, or a state where the body can actually take care of itself and build itself up again.
That's interesting. I never knew that heart rate variability was connected to the vagus nerve in that way.
Yeah, but the vagus nerve, and so basically our heart rate is it's a nervous system for itself. We can take the heart out of the body, and it keeps pumping as long as it's supplied with oxygen and sugar. And as soon as it don't get the sugar or get the oxygen, then it shuts down.
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
And you can actually, the heart is actually a picture about the whole stress situation in your body. If you are in a lot of stress, then the heart rate goes up, and if you are in no stress, then the heart rate goes down. So you can use it just by the way that you're breathing to change from stress to release, basically.
I was just thinking about when you were talking about that. Well, I'm writing my paper on type 2 diabetics, and of course, a lot of type 2 diabetics and have sleep apnea. And I actually have sleep apnea too. This is one of the things, like, why do I have this? I'm supposed to be a fit guy, but I do. And I was just thinking when you said that because that's really probably affecting my heart rate variability and my stress while I'm sleeping. Because if I'm doing a big snore, then your body's going into fight or flight in that moment, right? It's like, I'm choking, let's get this together. Yeah, I never thought about that before. I'm trying to
And
do a
then,
lot of, this guy James Nestor wrote this book, Breath. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he was actually saying that he eliminated his sleep apnea through just trying to breathe through your nose more. He was describing how people, maybe more than half people habitually breathe through their mouth, and we're supposed to breathe more through your nose. And but it makes, that all like kind of ties in there with that
yeah,
stress response while you're actually sleeping, and it causing health problems for type 2 diabetics and obese people also that often have sleep apnea.
yeah, and studies have shown that your oxygen intakes in the muscles are much higher when you breathe in through your nose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Instead of when you're breathing in through your mouth. And there's also a correlation between breathing in through your nose, then you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, and when you breathe in through your mouth, you activate the sympathetic nervous system instead.
Interesting.
So basically, being aware about how I'm breathing puts you in one of those two states in your autonomic nervous system.
So basically, we should breathe through our nose most of the time, unless we're doing a max deadlift. Then,
yeah, that's okay when we're doing something that's really where we need the high blood pressure and a high heartbeat and adrenaline in the body to be strong, because that's actually what you're doing in the Wim Hof method, because you're making this continuously breathing, then you're actually stressing the system in a way that puts up the adrenaline levels in the body. But if you continue in doing this, you also I don't know what it's called in English, but overilter, there's too much oxygen in the blood. And then when the oxygen reaches a too high level, then the system shuts down just to even this out. So and it's also the vagus nerve that is doing its magic here, because when we are put in a situation where the body don't have enough resources to comprehend what is going on, or just to make sure that we are not put in a state where we do too much harm to ourselves, then it shuts down, and it happens through the dorsal branch of the vagus nerve. So, and it's basically when we are caught in this headlights from the cars, just like Bambi, and put in a shock. Then basically the nervous system shuts down to make sure that we don't get too overwhelmed in the situation. And then we are caught in a state where the body is actually highly stressed, but the blood flow and the nervous system is in a relaxed position. And if we don't know how to bring ourselves back and self-regulate ourselves from these states, then it's stored in the body, like hyper emotional sensations, and that could be triggered when we are caught in similar conditions. And then we just go into this freeze position.
Almost like a post-traumatic stress or some kind of nerve memory or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we had this vagus nerve, and then you're alluding to this a little bit, but what are some methods that you talked about toning the vagus nerve, which I didn't realize right away that this is what I was doing, but it turns out that I'm doing a lot of these things, and I think it's really helped me out without realizing exactly what I was doing.
So one of the things that we know that could level the vagus tone is our breathing habits, breathing in through our nose, exhaling through our mouth. It's a good way to do it. but also to connect with people that we trust. So when we are surrounded with good people that we feel that we can be ourselves with, we can just sit back and do whatever we do. We don't have to hide anything from them, but we can basically be ourselves. That's also a good way to take the stress out of the equation. So one, as Stephen Porges, who has done a lot of research and scientific research in the parasympathetic nervous system, is basically saying that the vagus nerve is the nerves that help us to connect to other people, to respond to other people, and also to self-regulate. But our way to self-regulate it's a trained skill. So we should either have been given from our parents, or we should teach ourselves if we have not been given it from our parents. So your story, where you're a product of your mother's stories as well, then you haven't been taught properly how to self-regulate. But and that somehow freezes the emotions or freezing the movement in the body in some states. But if we can reconnect to those states and actually do it from an adult perspective, then we can take care of this inner child that haven't been met in its primary needs, and both physically and emotionally.
Yeah. It's funny when you do that, like I've been through this process of taking better care of myself, like you're describing. And then it's funny how because I walked around in my life with a lot of anger towards my mom, and I actually don't feel that anymore. You know, it's like the act of taking care of myself and kind of reparenting myself, like you're talking about, has totally dissipated anger that I have felt for her. And now I just kind of look at her and say, oh well, yeah, she did the best she can, and it's not something that's kind of burning in me like it used to. You know.
No. And it's basically because when we are a child, we can go up in this high perspective and see things from above. We are just caught in the middle of it, and we react from the middle of it. So if my father or my mother don't meet my needs right now, then we internalize this emotion.
Yeah, because we're
builds
totally
up
dependent, right? We're totally dependent
exactly.
as kids. So we're just like, I mean, literally helpless from the
Exactly.
start, and then becoming less and less so, but still, yeah, you're totally dependent. So
Yeah. And our main response when we are not met in our needs, it's with anger. So we can either be met in this anger, or we can internalize it. And when we start to internalize it, then we start to build up some emotional trauma in the body. And that trauma we can release, because from our adult perspective and from our adult resources, because there we can take care of our inner child. And we can give ourselves what we didn't get from our parents. And as soon as we get that from ourselves, then this anger that has been built up, or frustration, or whatever it is, it just disappears. And then our body starts to feel some kind of relief. Our nervous system starts to feel some kind of relief. And then this high state of stress we've been in is just turns down. So, and it's, for most people, it feels like, okay, what happened here? It's like it's some magical thing that's going on, but basically it's just yourself, that you have found a way to regulate yourself.
Yeah. And then you also mentioned that the cold water immersion, that's also a toning thing for the vagus nerve.
Yeah.
And what were other ones? I guess like some moderate aerobic exercise, right? Also helps.
Yeah. So we need the exercise, because if we don't do the exercise, then the body just starts to break down.
Yeah.
We need
It's
to.
funny. I'm not convinced that CrossFit is exactly the exercise we need. After my experiences, I think, okay, I was really stressed out, and I'm treating myself with this. I'm treating that stress with really stressful workouts, which I think was part of my problem. Maybe it's okay for some people, but I think
but for some people, it's when we have been put in a stressful situation our entire life, then we know all the small things that we can turn on to put us in a state where we can actually maintaining ourselves and regulate ourselves. And if we have been in a lot of stress and suddenly are not in a lot of stress, that could be actually feel quite scary for everybody, because I don't know how to handle this joy or silence, but I know how to handle the stress. And then we just put things into the schedule that we can actually handle, because I know how to handle stress. It's familiar to my nervous system. So that's also
so
basically
you think
why
a lot of people are drawn to CrossFit that have life experiences that put them in fight or flight?
Yeah, because when we do this kind of, when we activate the body that way, then there's also a lot of good chemicals going around in the body, like dopamine and endorphins and stuff like that. So we can get, basically it's a drug. So when we start to exercise excessively, that's basically just a drug, like heroin or crack or whatever you call it, alcohol. It's a way to regulate ourselves.
It's just like an adaptation, like those other things to deal with emotional pain or something.
Yeah. Exactly.
Interesting.
And then at some point we figure out, okay, this is not helpful for me, because if we look at CrossFit, for instance, basically it's a very fine training regime, but it's not fine if you do it every single day.
Now you're telling me. Now you're telling me.
I've been in the exactly same position as you, but it's fine if you do it.
Like the program says every day.
Yeah, exactly. But if you do it once or twice a week, then it's perfect.
Yeah.
But if what else, then we have to move this like 30 minutes every day, where the heart rate goes up, and it's basically bicycling or doing your micro workouts. It's perfect for that.
Yeah.
Because we need to put the body under some kind of stress, or else it weakens.
Yeah.
But we just have to find the right levels of
just
stress.
don't whack it completely.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, wow, this has been so great. This has been so great, Rudi. Thank you so much. I learned so much. I learned so much from this. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and getting a babysitter so you can do this. Thank you for doing that too. But well, I hope I can come see you again soon. Maybe I got some other things I got to work out. I'm sure.
You're always welcome.
Okay, thank you so much, Rudi.
Thank you.
And let's just mention that you're starting your own podcast. We should mention that too. Which, if I'm translating properly from Danish, is it The Art of Being Human? Is that it? Or something like that?
That's basically that. And it's primarily my own story about my upbringing and my experiences.
Cool.
Because I've seen from a lot of my clients that the main thing for us as human is to be recognized. And sometimes we recognize ourselves during other people's stories. So with that, we see, okay, I'm not the only one stuck in this situation. I'm not the only one with this experience, but it's basically a lot of us has some similarities to our
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah.
And when we see that, okay, I'm not the only one struggling here, I'm not alone, then the nervous system tones down as well. So
yeah. Yeah.
so that's
Well, I
my
look
main
forward to
vision.
that. I'll try to follow along and understand the Danish. I'm a little better than I used to be, but I still need work. But we'll put a link to your website and also the podcast and stuff like that when we publish the podcast. And thank you again, Rudi. It's been so great. Hopefully, I'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.